Ann, let me start with you. He's back. As a good conservative, are you going to read the book, or is it a big yawn?
That's a good question. It probably won't be the first book on my list because there are a lot of other books I'm interested in. Though he's smart and he's led a life through a lot of important periods for the country. I mean, working for the president.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably a fairly interesting book. But
Hilary, wasn't it an insult to call him Bush's brain, as if Bush had no brain?
He was the perfect bad cop to Bush's good cop. So it's half of brain for each I give them.
Well, he doesn't think he was a bad cop. For example, he was asked about his involvement in rumors that John McCain fathered an illegitimate black child, and this is what he said.
McCain and the McCain campaign, Fletcher and others, they needed somebody to blame, and they didn't want to blame Bush. It was hard to blame Bush. He's a nice guy. People knew him. It wouldn't stick. So why not pick out the sort of dough-faced, balding guy who's the gray eminence behind the campaign and blame him? And look, that's the way politics is. Bush had a theory. He'd say, "Better you than me," and that's right. That came with the territory.
And isn't he throwing Bush under the bus with this one? It's like, no, they put the blame on me because I look like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Well, and by the way, yes, Bush's brain was meant as an insult to George Bush.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any doubt about it. That wasn't a subtle one. But, that South Carolina primary, I am kind of surprised that, I don't know if he was asked about it. Was he asked about it there? Because that has been disproved 17 times. The LA Times did a big investigation.
What, the illegitimate black child?
That the Bush campaign was making these robocalls. If there had been such robocalls, they would have ended up on people's answering machines, and yet no one could produce them. And so the LA Times, Byron York, they do an investigation. Turns out it was based on a third-hand account. Some woman stood up at a McCain town hall and said her 10-year-old son had gotten a phone call saying this. And so McCain instantly blamed Bush, and Bush said, no, we didn't do this. And surprisingly, it's unprecedented. He released the text of the robocalls, surprisingly unprecedented, because, like I say, it's going to end up on like 100,000 answering machines across the state.
Hilary, do you hear what she's saying? That it didn't happen.
I do hear what she's saying, and I think that there was other investigations in South Carolina at the time that said something different. But, I don't consider that his dirtiest trick. And I think Karl Rove's dirtiest trick in the country was perpetuating this lie that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and that we had to invade instantly, otherwise Saddam Hussein was going to decimate with nuclear weapons the entire world. And Karl Rove spent about a year and a half creating a campaign to make us all believe that they had a justification for invading Iraq.
But Rove has
that's
said
the dirtiest trick of all.
That was a pretty dirty trick. But Rove has said that the American public isn't easily misled. They were misled into the Iraq War. Or we were.
I think we need to distinguish between a dirty trick and
Starting
intelligence information being incorrect. I mean, this is crazy to start saying that the French thought Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. Colin Powell thought they had weapons of mass destruction. He appeared and gave that speech.
Absolutely not clear. And what we know now is that Karl Rove went with Dick Cheney, the intelligence agencies, and said, beef it up. And he sent Colin Powell to the UN to give information that they knew wasn't true.
Dirty trick. Are you claiming that Colin Powell was in on the dirty trick? Come
on.
But
Ann, isn't it
no,
true?
in fact, Colin Powell has said later that he knows that he was given wrong information.
But isn't it true that the UN did not think they were weapons of mass destruction? I remember that guy, Hans Blitzer, whatever his name was. Remember that guy?
No, but they wanted to give Iraq had already violated 17 UN resolutions, and the UN wanted to try one more resolution.
Okay, let's move on to something else, because that's old
You're
news
bored.
already. I am. I get bored easily.